everyone, and welcome to the Koala Club podcast, a podcast made by and for international students in Australia. I am Kevin.
And I am Trang, and we talk about everything education, work, and lifestyle for overseas students in Australia.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Koala Club podcast. This week, we're gonna continue our course series. How are you, Trang, firstly, and what do we have for this week?
Hi everyone, hi Kevin, I'm good, thank you. This week is our third episode in the mini-series on the course overview, and today we are going to talk about the Bachelor of Engineering, specifically in civil engineering, and we have a special guest speaker here today, and it's no one other than our host, Kevin.
Yeah, hello, hey, yay, it's me.
Nice to meet you, Kevin. Thanks for being on the show.
No worries, nice to meet you, Jack. Nice to be on the show for as a guest for once. I mean, we were on the other side of the table, and today I'm gonna experience how it feels to be a guest. Quite nervous, actually.
No need to be. So, well, I will introduce your profile briefly because I know you're too humble to introduce your own profile. But for our listeners to have a little bit of background on Kevin's profile. So Kevin came to Australia to study high school. So he's completed the high school certificate in Sydney with an ATAR of 97, which is very high. And he's actually came second in his high school year in year 12, with 4 subjects coming in first and second in 1 subject. And he's graduated from the Bachelor of Engineering Honours with the major of Civil Engineering in 2016. And during his uni, he's was a recipient of the UOW Undergraduate Excellence Scholarship and the Faculty Merit Scholarship. So that's a total of 50% of the tuition fee. So amazing. And he's done a Diploma of Project Management in 2019. So in total, he's worked as a civil project engineer for about 6 years now. So looking forward to hearing about your experience, Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let's delve right in. So with your course that you did, so Bachelor of Engineering Honours, why don't you tell us a little bit about like the duration of it and the course structure, any, I guess, subjects in the first year and then what you did in the second year, and whether there were any practical components or internships that were required?
Yeah, sure. So the Bachelor of Engineering course in Australia normally it runs for 4 years. For the first year, pretty much all major study almost the same core subject. You can expect something like math, engineering 101. So that is like all the basics of engineering. You study about physics, chemistry, a little bit of computing, and then start from second year, you will start having some electives. As in you can choose subjects that outside or inside of your course curriculum. So you can choose electives that are related to your engineering background, or you can choose electives completely outside of it as well. And also in the second year, you will start having some subject that delve deeper into your major. So say if you're a civil engineer course, you will have subjects like structural studies, structural engineering, constructions. Whereas if you an environmental engineer major, for example, you will expect something like water management, environmental engineering. So the practical component of it as well is all the engineering bachelor course require students to have a 12 weeks compulsory work placement, or in other words, internship required before you are eligible to graduate your course. You need to do a 12 weeks compulsory work placement. This can be outside or inside uni. So I know inside uni they have summer research program for like high achieving students to apply for, and then that count towards your 12 weeks internship as well. But if you cannot get that, you also free to apply to the companies in the outside industry.
Yeah, so during which year of university do you have to do the internship, or is it flexible?
It is flexible, so like you can do the internship anytime. Really, the earlier you can get an internship, the better. So it helps to plan early. I know a lot of people done the internship over the summer, the first year or the second year, and then also a lot of people leave it until the very last year. So the longer you leave it, the harder for you, because I know some people that has finished all the subject, all the academic requirement of their 4 years degree, but they have not had an internship, and then they have to go out and find one internship and do it the summer of the last year. So in some case, they cannot graduate at the same time with their peers because of that.
Right. Yeah, that's something to be aware of, and it's good to know. Hey.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So I guess civil engineering is a very, I guess, a practical field, and during your uni course, I can imagine it's a lot of it is like theory or it's just in the classroom. So, what was your favorite subject during the course, and or which subject, I guess, was more relevant to your work now that you're working?
My most favorite subject was actually not an engineering subject. It was astronomy. I just love everything about space. I'm very curious about that. So I love that subject. It's a great elective too, because it is fun to do and it's relatively easy to get really good mark. So it kind of scale up your average mark at the end as well. So that's the trick. I also love physics subject in year one as well. That is one of the core subjects of engineering. I love it. It teach you a lot about the way the world works, and how practical engineering applications in real life works. So I like that. But I would say the most relevant subject actually must be in when about year three, the third year. I will study construction management. So even though at the time I did not know that that will be the most relevant subject to my career later on, but after I graduated and ever since I've been working in on the construction side of engineering, as in I don't do engineering design, I don't draw, I don't make engineering drawings, but I only try to win work for that has those design and then go build do those designs. So pretty much just construction. There's also an elective subject named roads. I regrettably did not pick it, but after I graduated, my first job was working building roads. So I wish that I would have picked it, because I know a lot of my peers did pick that subject. And according to them, it was a great subject as well. And it prepared you for a lot of practical knowledge and skills when you go outside, and you can easily pick up an engineering, science engineering role working building roads or highways.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I love how the subject is just called roads.
Yeah, no, it's literally called roads. I think it's just roads.
Okay. So I think we did talk about your internship experience back in our internship episode. So listeners can have a listen to that as well. But I guess just linking that to the course that you did, w- can you tell us just a little bit about that internship experience, maybe a summary, and I guess the relevance to the theory that you've learned in the classroom, or the irrelevance?
Yeah, for sure. So I interned at a Sydney Olympic Park Council as a civil engineer intern. This was during the summer between my third year and my fourth year. So the second last year of my degree. And I was working in their major projects department, helping their projects. Overall, the internship was fantastic experience where I got the chance to work on a variety of projects, including civil, as in roads, infrastructure works, and environmental, as in water management. And also, I got to work on some very interesting clean energy project. One of them is the installation of all the solar power light near Sydney Olympic Park. So this internship is, I would say, it's more relevant to the construction slash project management side of my study. And eventually that is where the area where I end up working in after I graduate. I learned very practical methods of project management, site management, and how to work and engage with different key stakeholders in within the project. Also, how to track cost, time, and quality of the project, which is a three constraint of the project management triangle. For the relevant of it, I would say a bit is the design side of this course, as in I don't really get a lot of practice like design civil drawings or like draw up civil drawings, because that's not council normally they outsource it outside, and then if they do, they have their own drafters. So I actually get to work assist some of the drafter for their drawings. What I learned technical side or the design side is how to read and interpret civil engineering drawings and how to understand what those legends mean, and then what this drawing, what this note means, what to look out for, and how to like cross check what's in the drawings with what the contractors build outside.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. Thanks for sharing that.
No worries.
Yeah, so with your civil engineering course, you did an honors year as well in your last year. So I think doing honors degree is very like common for the engineering field, and I think a lot of the unis make it compulsory to do that year. So what tips would you give our listeners or future civil engineering students to perform well and get a good result for their thesis and also like in turn graduate with that honors degree?
Yes. So back then when I was doing my degree, it was actually optional. So you can do either do an honor, which is a thesis, which get you honor degree, or you can do a real life project in your last year, which is work on a real life project of a company outside the industry, but you don't get the honor degree. You just get a normal degree. But I believe now a lot of uni has made it compulsory to do honor degree. I think the aspect of it is the engineering degree was 4 years anyway, so they don't need to do an extra year. They just do it in last year, so might as well just do it. From my personal experience, my biggest tip to perform well in your thesis and get a high mark in your honor degree would be to start planning early and get organized early for your thesis, because the thesis subject, it has different steps. The first one is a proposal. You need to prepare like a proposal, a short report where you review the theory of the topic you choose, what has already been studied, what has already been proved, and then you need to state your purpose, objectives, method of testing, all that sort of stuff. And then you move on to the second one, which is a progressive report, where you show your progress, what is and raise any issue that arise, propose any method to solve problems and experimental directions. And then when come the third step, which is the actual experiment testing and collect data. So you set up the experiment, you gather equipment, and you collect data result through your already proposed method. And then you have a thesis defense presentation. It is near the end where you like give a presentation to what you find and kind of defend your thesis, and you have all these professor and seniors, supervisor will ask you questions about your thesis. And then after that, you got the final thesis report to be submitted. It is probably the biggest percentage of mark in your whole subject. And then you have to make a thesis poster as well. And if your poster is nice and good, they will hang it in the wall of civil engineering department, like the wall of fame. Pretty much you can see there's a lot of steps. So if you don't start early and plan early and get organized, you can be easily overwhelmed, which I was I was very overwhelmed in my last year, because I didn't think I organized it well and planned it well. Other small tips you can find is you should identify issues and raise it early with your supervisor professor, because you don't want to be stuck in a big problem near the end of your project, because you wouldn't have enough time to solve it. When it comes down to writing the actual report or actual thesis, make sure you write every day, even if it's just one page, to keep the consistency. So if you write every day, because I remember, I think the requirement was about 90,000 words. So it's a lot. If you write like few weeks, or even 1 or 2 months, at the end, it's very overwhelming, which I did. I made the mistake too. So yeah, so write every day, even just half a page or two paragraphs, something. The second one is write first, edit later, because a lot of time people worry about writing perfectly, but you really just need to get it out first, get your idea out, and then you can come back later to try to edit and make it sounds nice. Last one I think is quite important, which is try to digital declutter your life, because the less social network distractions you have, the more efficient you will be with your thesis work. I learned this the hard way, because I was quite distracted with all the social network back then. And I find that when I really focus and just block out all that distractions, I tend to work a lot better. This is also related to that. When you have your study break, try to enjoy your break with physical activities, such as going for a walk or do a 15 minutes yoga practice or reading a book, instead of just moving your focus from one screen, i.e. the laptop, to another screen that is your phone, because it can be
Mm.
quite draining. Just keep looking at screens after screens like that.
Wow, thanks for giving us the rundown, but that does sound very heavily involved and requires so much proactive planning
Yeah,
and organizing, and the fact that you have to be independent and proactive in your work as and studies, like, it's not like, "Oh, your deadline's in 2 weeks," it's like your deadline's in a year. That may sound like a lot of time, but it's a lot of work, so if you leave it too late,
yeah,
there
that's
could
right.
be, like, a lot of
Hmm.
consequences.
Yeah, that too. You have to be really proactive and switch on and really take care of your own, subject, because other subject you may have assignment, report, and people like tutorials and all that. But thesis, you have none of that. So you only have like a direct supervisor. It could be a professor. It could be like a senior student who's doing his PhD, for example. This is your task. It is your responsibility to chase them up. They wouldn't tell you out of the blue, hey, you need to do this and that. It's up to you to set up meetings with them and come and ask some questions, and then they will say, okay, this part you need to read more about this area and all that to be able to solve this problem. So yeah.
Wow. I guess another question I have is, so how did you pick your thesis or area that you want to do the research or thesis on?
I guess it's a combination between your interest and then your strength. So throughout the course in the first 3 years, you will know by your mark, the mark you receive, that say you quite good at concrete structures, for example, or you good at steel reinforcement, or you good at structural design. So whatever you're good at normally would be where the area you are interested at as well. So I was quite I think interested in the concrete and steel sort of space. And then when I talk to my direct supervisor or professor, you get to pick them as well. So normally there are a few, two or three. Just read up on their profile and decide who's gonna be the best fit for
Mm.
you. So I kind of research on all the supervisor, professor, and I decide this guy's gonna be the best fit for me. I came to talk to him, and at the same time, he was having like a concrete steel fiber reinforced polymer, concrete steel FRP reinforcement around a concrete structure to make it like a stronger structure and also more durable and also like fireproof as well. So that is something I'm quite interested at, and I think I could do good at it. That's why I pick it and go ahead with it.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for that. It does seem a little bit overwhelming for someone like me who's haven't done an honors year.
Yeah.
So it will be good to know all these tips. So I'm sure our listeners would benefit from all the tips you've outlined.
I guess for someone like, say, other than the engineering or science space, for example, if you do business or accounting or finance, maybe you'll be similar to someone like you really interested in fintech, for example,
Mm,
and like,
mm,
and you like talk to your supervisor, and if they do, even if they don't have that project right now, they said, well, that's okay. You can just do 1 year of your thesis on it, and if your thesis bring good results, they may get the extra funding to continue that later with another proper longer research in a uni. So I think it's all start with your passion and your interest throughout your course, and then you
mm.
build from there.
Great, great. Okay, so moving away from the course and now into, I guess, the your work experience. So you've been in the workforce now for 6 years. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your first two jobs after you've graduated?
Yeah, so my first two jobs, let me talk about my first job first. It's a construction company locally in the Illawarra area, working for local council project mainly. That one was good to learn quickly because I was titled a graduate engineer, but I was pretty much trying to do everything. I was trying to do a site engineer. I was helping with estimating. I was helping with writing work health safety documentation. I was helping with procurement, purchasing materials, and all the materials and resources required for the project. I was there for about 1.5 years. It was good for me to learn. and grow quickly to get exposed to a lot of different areas in the project and in the business. The second job I got is actually a company in Sydney, in the Western Sydney region to be exact, and they were working in the subdivision space mainly. So it was quite different because with subdivision they were working for private clients, all this consultancy, or there's private developers. So it was a bit of a step up in my career as well because I got to be more involved in all the estimating, procurement, and project management side of things, and I got to work with like maybe 3 or 4 different projects at the same time, not just tied down to one. So that's a lot of exposure as well. I learned new estimating software there, which at the end got me my third job back to the Gong, closer to home. So that was good. Um, I feel like in the second job, I grew a lot as a civil project engineer because I got to be more responsible and literally running jobs. And it was satisfied to see the project coming from start to finish. That's a good thing. Sadly, at the end, I also I was burnt out at the end because I also worked 10 hours a day there. Plus, it was Sydney, so it was pretty much 3 hours travel per day.
Yeah, wow, that does sound intense with all the travel and the 10-hour days. So now that you've moved back to Wollongong and is now working locally, what is that work experience like for you?
Yeah, so at my current place, it's actually a bit more relaxed because I scale back to a normal 8 hours workday. It's a construction company in the Gong, and they were working mainly local council projects. Plus, we have a lot of projects inside for Blue Scope still, Port Kembla. So we build their infrastructure, their roads, and their drainage and whatnot. The place is very close to my house now. It's 15 minutes drive away, so that's a big help. Back to working for local council projects, I got this new sense of belonging. I was always in the Illawarra as well. So I felt this new sense of satisfaction within my work where the things I built is for the local community here, whether in Wollongong or Port Kembla or Shell Harbour. It makes me feel like I literally contribute to the local community here instead of killing myself over 10 hours there in Sydney, where it's benefit, the community there. So it's quite a refresher for me. I would say it's quite another step up for me in my career as well, because in here, I'm more of a central mid-level civil engineer role where I report to a senior engineer, but also I get to mentor another junior or graduate engineer.
Wow, that's great. So that's, yeah, I can see what you mean about making more meaningful impact in your community and I guess seeing the more tangible effects of your work.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's a typical day in the life of a civil engineer, but maybe if you could just summarize what a a normal day is
Yeah.
like. And especially I want to hear about your site visits because you
Yep.
mentioned a lot about going on site, but I wonder what you actually do on site. Like, do you supervise people or do you watch what they're doing and checking their work? So yeah, why don't you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. You go on site, you get a coffee, and then you look important, and you just stand there. No, just kidding. No, 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 none of that. I still get coffee, but none of that. Well, to a day in the life of civil engineer, please check out our previous podcast. So we have one with that, but I'll tell you briefly now. So I start around 7 to 7:30. On the days when I really need to be on site early, then I'll start at 7. If not, I'll start around 7:30. And normally I actually go inside the office first because our head office is in Wollongong. So it's actually like kind of very close to all the construction sites we have. So I kind of just go into the office first, open up and check my email for any emergency first. And then if there's any like urgent email that need to attend to, then I attend to it and call up people and sort it out. Otherwise, I start set out a task or a to-do list for the day. I try to write out like about just 5 most important things to get done in the day. I try to keep it short. If I write out too much, I feel overwhelmed and I probably couldn't achieve them all and store it. And depends on the day, I either work on estimating, project management, or both, because my task here is actually a mix of trying to tender and win projects back for the company, and do estimating on that. But also the other side is project management, which is try to run the job that we already have and try to deliver it well within budget and within cost and time and all that. Then like you said, attend meetings is a big aspect of my day, whether it is a internally meeting, which is meetings with our teams and the higher management or the finance department to give them update about the projects running and to identify if any issue that may arise and if we need help fixing that, or externally with clients on site mostly. So site visit normally happens quite frequent. Actually, when we have projects running, I go to site almost once every day, so almost daily. Things I go on site to do is to discuss any issue arise and monitor site progress and quality. So that is actually the summary of that. But when you go on site, the method is to always talk to the supervisor. So most sites they have one site supervisor to run the job site. If you have really big site like multi-million dollars, like 10 or 20 million or 100 million dollars projects, you may have a few supervisors. And but for our size, we normally just have one supervisor per site. And then I go and talk to them and ask them about the progress of today, cross check it against our engineering drawings and cross check it against our construction program. And then based on that, I can identify if any issue arise. Technical issue, we can talk about with the supervisor. If I need to call up, say, a geotechnical engineer to come out and have a look, I call them up. If I need to call up a surveyor to come and have a look, I call them up. So to try to solve that technical aspect of it. If it is a delay, that the issue is a delay in the project schedule, then we talk about how we can speed things up. Either we get more people coming in, like we get two or more labor, we get one or two extra plants, machines to come in and try to speed up the site progress. Or we have other measures such as we can work longer hours on the day. Say we can normally we finish around 3:30 or 4, for example, we can work until 5 or 6 if the daylight permit us. So yeah, that's all sort of stuff happen on site. A lot of the time you have to you like pull out to go on site unexpectedly as well. Like, Kevin, something urgent happened here. We need you near here now. What should we do? Then you have to like fly there now, drive there and see what the problem is, and if you need to ring up and let the client know or not. Like if there's a lot of problem, you need to ring up and let the client know straight away, because it will involve additional work to fix that. And that additional work is not in the contract. So that is called variation. You need to raise a variation and you need to get the client approval before you proceed. Because if you do it and the client turn around and say, you didn't let me know, I didn't approve this, then you basically do it for free. So yeah, that's a lot of that. A big aspect of my day in the life of civil engineer as well is to work with the financial documents actually, and work on monthly progress claim at the end of the month for projects to submit to clients for cash flow. So I think civil engineering nowadays is very cost conscious because everything is rising in price. So to keep the costs low and to know exactly what going in and what going out, as in to have a perfect view of your cash flow and try to keep your cash flow positive, is really a big part of a civil engineering role.
Wow, so you're pretty much an accountant too, in
Yeah.
addition to a civil engineer.
Pretty much. Yeah, I have to. Yeah, it might help that I studied business studies in high school. So every now and then I got this flashback of, oh, cash flow, balance sheet, all sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's so interesting hearing about your typical day, because it sounds like there's a variety of things that you do and things can come up unexpectedly, and there's so many variables that could determine your day and how you go about solving the issue. So that's great to hear. So overall, do you think the course that you've studied prepared you well for the workforce and the work in practice?
To a degree, yes. The course prepare you mostly on the skills you pick up during your university years. That includes group work, preparing, planning, problem solving, and also project management. Because each of your subject is actually a project. You need to prepare and control it well so that you can deliver the most positive outcome, which is like a high mark or the knowledge you get out of it and stuff like that. But there's a lot of things as well the course would not prepare you for in the workplace, that include working with different stakeholders. It could be working with the finance department, working with your higher management, working with councils, working with local government organizations like city water or utility, like Telstra and all that. So I would say a lot of these things you pick up when you go outside uni and you start the job. And then also a lot of the technical aspect you see and you read in university during books and studies outside can be vastly different as well, because the practice they use outside may not be the practice you study, and the practice you study inside university may be outdated already by the time you graduated. So you need to quickly update your knowledge and update your skills. Like good industrial practice, you need to stay updated on how they do it these days in the industry outside. So yeah, in a way, I'll say prepare you, but not fully.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's, I guess, the general consensus around all courses is that it prepares you to an extent, but then when you go in the workforce, there's obviously so much more to learn, and I guess practice is always different to the theory, right?
Yes, yes, definitely.
Yeah, so what is the thing that you've enjoyed the most about your career as a civil engineer?
I guess the things I enjoy the most, firstly, is it is a challenging but rewarding career. And by reward, I don't mean just financially, but also like mentally. And the things I enjoy most is getting to see the civil structures being built from scratch to finished products. So whether it is just a concrete footpath or it is a big highway, because I can see it was being formed and built up by us. And then once it is finished, I can see the people actually use it. Again, I get the satisfaction of knowing that I contribute something for the local community. And by, like say, for example, if we um, fix up a really shaky footpath and we make it a nice, safe footpath that improve just a life of general residents around it, and people use it, and they got a very nice and safer structure to work on. So yeah, that is the thing I enjoy most, to see stuff being built and contribute to the local community.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Kevin, because yeah, most of the time we walk on the footpath, we drive on the road, we don't really think about the work that goes behind it. I think most of us usually would just take it for granted, but there's a lot of work that goes on behind it, which
Mm.
it's good that we're hearing about it today. There's always two sides of everything. So I guess what are some of the struggles that you've encountered in this career?
Yeah, the struggles. I would say you need to be constantly solving problems, because all projects and construction sites will always have problems almost every day as well. Now, doesn't matter how well you plan ahead for it. So you have to be always switch on, always think on your feet, and coordinate well with others to solve problems. That's one of the struggles. And also the second thing is, for me, particularly came from an international students background, is to there's a struggle is to understand the Australian culture so that you can communicate well on site with all types of workers, ranging from laborers to concreters, to supervisors, machine operators, to higher management, finance managers, and then to clients, councils, government organizations. So it's almost like you need to understand the general culture, and then you need to know to talk differently to each person. You can't talk at the same style or same type, because then you'd be outcasted. You would not be welcome, as in people would not embrace you in. So you need to know how to talk to different type of people and different type of workers. And all in all, I think it's both a challenge, but also it's a thing that you can enjoy, because Australia is a beautiful multicultural country. So I'm very happy to learn about the culture of everyone, and if that helps my career and also my general life, then I'm all in for it, you know.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. So, for students who are thinking of pursuing this Bachelor of Engineering course and maybe this specific major, civil engineering, I guess what career paths are there for those when they graduate? Like what routes can they take?
For Bachelor of Engineering course, there's a vastly choice of careers that you can choose and branch out from. And even if you just do civil engineering, even in particular civil engineering major, you can still branch out to a lot of different majors, a lot of different profession outside the industry. This includes, but not limited to, civil site engineer, civil project engineer, estimator, geotechnical engineer, surveyor, water engineer, utility engineer, or structural engineer. So just you can see already there's a long list of the different persona and profession that you can pick from, and then it's never fixed to a position or not, because the things you learn in uni is just a base for you to say apply for your first job. But once you got your first job, you can still keep learning more and more and more, and then you can work in literally any area that you want within the, you know, the engineering industry, or even outside the engineering industry. If you got, say, be a civil project engineer for a long time and you got project management skill, you can be a project manager outside the civil industry as well. That makes sense. You can be a project manager because you understand how project works. You understand what's the cost, what the time constraint, you know, what resources you need to be, and you have all the project management tools and skills and knowledge to manage a good project. So yeah, the possibilities are endless, like I say.
Yeah, and I think a lot of engineering background people end up being CEOs of companies
Mm,
that are probably not engineering related. So, as you say, the possibilities are endless.
yeah, absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Kevin, for sharing your stories with us. It's really interesting to hear about the course you studied and now your work experience and how you've like applied what you've learned. And it's yeah, and even though I do know a little bit about your background, it's still really like eye-opening to hear about more details about what you do in the day and how your honors degree went and that. So yeah, thank you for joining us on this episode, Kevin, and being a guest speaker instead of a
No
host.
worries. Oof, it feels quite weird, like I said, being a guest speaker. But I mean, I'm glad to be here and share all this, so that any students looking into study civil engineering or engineering in general would, it will help them to make their decision. And it is a great profession. It is a great course to pick. And yeah, I hope that this episode benefit our listeners and to whoever who's still considering about engineering as a degree.
Yeah, I'm sure it's been helpful for our listeners. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please do share it around to your friends. And yeah, if you haven't followed us on Facebook and Instagram, please do at the Koala Club Podcast. Thank you.